Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. By now, you've probably heard about it, but we had some shocking news over the weekend as former NBA superstar Kobe Bryant was killed in a helicopter accident. So I hate to start the show on a sad and depressing note, but this kind of came out of left field, and I did as I always do. I went through and tried to do as much research on it as possible because I, for one, was shocked when I saw that he was flying around in a helicopter. And I don't follow the lives of athletes at all, so I didn't know that that was kind of common knowledge. But I would think that an airplane would be 100 times safer. I know he was flying to like his basketball camp, so I looked up the stats, and helicopters do wreck a ton more than airplanes. So I was just baffled by the whole situation, and I hate to see anyone lose their life. But that kind of came out of left field to me because I would assume that most people had like private planes, or if you're that connected to the league, like I figured the Lakers would let him use their plane or vice versa, some type of thing. But to just see that he had bought a plane, I guess it was from a former governor or someone in mayor, maybe the mayor of LA. Like it was a former politician's helicopter that he had purchased or that he was renting. I don't know if he actually bought it, but I'm very sad. Hate to see him and the other people that were on the plane or the helicopter with him, but just crazy. Do you have any thoughts on it, Matt?
One of the things that I saw today, it's been overwhelming, the amount of coverage that I've seen on social media regarding this. But one of the things that stood out to me was the discussion about the conditions that the helicopter pilot was facing. And apparently it was suggested that during those situations that he really shouldn't have even been in the air at that point, with the conditions being kind of foggy and not ideal flying. They suggested that they probably should have landed and then had people take alternative transportation to wherever they were going. And not only for Kobe Bryant, but the other passengers that had passed away too. There were a lot of families that have been affected by that helicopter crash.
Yeah, he was flying to one of his basketball team games. I guess he sponsors a league or something. And I saw the flight plan, and they actually circled around. I don't know how long they circled before they took that attempt to get to where they were going. They said the fog was so thick that I guess it crashed into a mountainside. And they did say that there was no black box, but based on the way it hit, you could see that they were trying to accelerate up over the top of it. So, I mean, probably the scariest thing that they've been through, and just tragic all around. So, I mean, you're right. There's a ton of coverage on it, and I hate how a lot of people are just taking it amongst themselves to, like, I don't know if they're actually like profiting off it or whatever, but like LeBron came out and said that he was going to take over the legacy of the Lakers or some bullshit like that. And it was like, can you just go 5 seconds without making it about yourself, LeBron? Like, who cares about your legacy as a Laker? Unless you win 3 straight championships like Kobe did, no one's ever going to consider you a great Laker. Like, at that point, you're just another guy that played for LA. Like, LeBron played for so many teams, and for him to come out and just like jump on it, it was like, just stay out of the spotlight. Stay out of the spotlight. It's getting a ton of coverage everywhere. You don't need to feed in and put your own little personal spin or agenda on it. It just baffled me. Anything else you got on it?
No, I think if it's really tragic and it's sad, but I feel like it was just I was overwhelmed at how much coverage it got instantly. Well, and I'm sure there's going to be more.
Nothing like that has ever happened. I tried to go back through and see what our earlier episodes were on, because I know we talked about just teams never being in a serious car accident or crash or anything. Because I think it was a couple years ago or a year ago, some team was involved in like a bus accident, and the University of Michigan, their plane almost didn't take off before the Big Ten tournament, and they had to make an emergency landing. So like this, for this to happen and on such a high level, it's almost unprecedented. It's almost like Roberto Clemente. It's on that level.
Yeah, I would have to say that. And I think when you look at where his career was heading, where he was transitioning, like he had faded out of the spotlight briefly, but then was taking a newer course with his daughter having an interest in basketball and starting to sponsor some of those teams. He definitely had a future career in mind or in the making.
Matt, now I know that you do not subscribe to the ESPN Plus because you're wrong. Kobe Bryant was giving commentary on there. He had his own show, Inside the Mind of Kobe Bryant. ESPN Plus. How dare you not subscribe to the worldwide leader?
I subscribe to Southbound Sports.
All right, let's get into our next topic, also basketball related, a little bit lighter. Allen Iverson. He was in a Philly hotel, I believe, and he had $500,000 worth of jewelry because why not? You put it in your bag, you carry it around, and I just got to tell him, it's not worth $500,000. I don't care what you paid. You got scammed, AI. No jewelry is worth that. And I'll tell you how I know, Matt. Go to any pawn shop. Any pawn shop, you can find the same exact stuff for like $20. Take that engagement ring or your wedding ring, whatever you bought your wife, your fiance, take it. The very day you buy it. Some people spend thousands of dollars on these things. As soon as you buy it, just go to a pawn shop and ask them how much they'll give you for it. And when they say $50, you'll know how much you just got ripped off. So I want to know. The guy brought it back. He was so spooked because of the coverage it got. He must not have realized. Let's be honest. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was just trying to grab someone's bag, didn't realize that it was Iverson's. Maybe he thought it was. Maybe he knew it was him. He thought he just had sneakers in there or something that he could pawn real quick. Once he saw the news, realized like, oh shit, this guy has a ton of jewelry in here. I better return this or I'm going to be in deep shit. But
maybe he thought it was a party. Maybe he thought it was the party jewelry, like that you get down in New Orleans during Mardi Gras. He's like, oh, look at these party favors.
Hey, you never know. He got spooked so bad by the coverage, though, that he returned it. So
good for him. What a good Samaritan, earning this jewelry you're stealing.
He saved AI a ton of headaches. I mean, he should just drop the charges because at that point, as soon as it was stolen, like what was he going to do? He was going to have to file an insurance claim and then prove that the jewelry was worth $500,000. Like, there's no way to prove that. You have the receipt from where is he shopping? I don't even know where he would be shopping that they would give him like a genuine article of all this jewelry. So he lucked out there. That's all I got to say. All right. Any other basketball things you got before we get into football?
Just as far as I saw Mark Cuban had retired Kobe's jersey, and several players were starting to make the moves as well. To just stop wearing his number altogether. So just something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, like I said, it's going to impact basketball as much as Roberto Clemente did for baseball. It is that same type of tragedy. I know he wasn't doing charity flights or whatever Clemente was doing at the time, but it's going to have the same exact impact. So everyone's going to end up retiring the jersey. I think they did a 24-second violation because he wore the number 24. All the teams did that to start the games or whatever the following day. So it won't go away. That's why we had to start the show with it. Like, it's going to be big news for months. I mean, try to watch the Super Bowl. I guarantee it's injected into there somehow. So that's just a little precursor as we get into our Super Bowl talk. I bet that it's mentioned more than one time. And ready to go for the game. Chiefs, early favorites by 1.5 from what I saw. I tried to see if there was a shift today, but I haven't seen any. And I will say, if you're a betting man, The Chiefs at that line, I kind of like them. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I think it's going to be high scoring. But if you're going to gamble on the game, the line is so close that I don't know how you would take the 49ers going into the game. I know they're more balanced. I had someone call me out, a 49ers fan last week, because I said about how the 49ers were garbage last year. And they tried to tell me that it was because of Jimmy G going down. And he's the next Tom Brady. The Niners, he played in 3 games. The 49ers were 1-2 in those games. They sucked last year. Didn't matter if he played or not. It wasn't like they were 3-0 and he got injured and they lost 11 straight games. I mean, look at Ben Roethlisberger this year. You could clearly say that made an impact. The Steelers still had 7 wins or whatever without him. Was it 6 or 7? Like, the 49ers ended up with 4. Your team can't be that awful that your quarterback goes down. Like, how do you not have any backup at all? Or just a game manager if your team is that great that you can win games without him? Like, this is a total shift. No team has ever made that jump before. Last time they played the Chiefs was that game. Garoppolo got hurt, actually. I tried to look up. I think they lost by double digits. So you have to try to think, are you buying this 49ers team? I mean, Mahomes went down. He had his injury in the middle of the year. That is when the Chiefs had their losses. He seems to be back and healthy. Do you really want to bet against him? On the other hand, you have the Andy Reid factor. I think the game's going to play out. Chiefs get down early, and then they just start clicking. And I don't know if they pull away. I think it's going to be close, but I think they definitely win the game either by a touchdown or, I mean, at the minimum, a field goal. What are your thoughts, Matt?
Well, I thought I saw that Kittle has been playing through torn labrum, torn bicep, torn something for like a year and a half. Like, I felt like the Niners are already laying down excuses for injuries and things that came up that why they're not going to come out on top. So, I mean, I definitely think Kansas City's favorited, and maybe this is Andy Reid's year.
Matt, someone needs to get Kittle in touch with Ray Lewis. I mean, get him some of that deer antler spray. Ray came right back that year. Him torn bicep, whatever. He was playing in the Super Bowl. Like, go ahead. It's out there. The NFL didn't care that time. They're not going to care if you're on it before the Super Bowl.
Well, he's probably already on it. So they're like, well, he got away with it.
I remember them saying like, no, don't try this at home, kids. It only works for Ray Lewis types. like they think that people just have deer antler spray just laying around. Like the shady guy down at the corner is going to sell you legitimate deer antler spray. The same type Ray Lewis is taking.
Do you have Ray Lewis's brand?
Yeah, the Ray Lewis official deer antler spray bottle. Sold in all your GNCs or whatever that store's called. What are your thoughts on the running game?
I like the way that the Niners have been able to stay ground and pound with their run. But I think when you boil it down, the end of the day, I think I don't know that the Niners have enough in the tank to upset Kansas City. I think Kansas City they're too healthy. They have too many offensive weapons, and I think that if it turns into a shootout, I think that Kansas City's going to get it done over the long haul.
I had a buddy of mine text me today that more of a conspiracy on his part, that he thought that the NFL was never going to let Tyreek Hill win the Super Bowl. So he thinks all the calls are going to be going against Kansas City. How crazy is that?
Maybe they'll go against Tyreek Hill. They'll just be out to get him as an individual player. He'll rip off a long run. Oh, there was holding there. One of those phantom holds.
Hey, you never know. Just think how crazy it would have been. Kareem Hunt. Don't invite that girl back to your hotel. You're playing in the Super Bowl right now. I mean, Instead, you end up with what? The Browns? Is that where he was this year?
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Well, how awful for him. Hate
Choices
to see
have
it.
consequences.
Hate to see it. I mean, the Chiefs, all their running backs let me down in fantasy football, but they get to play on the game's biggest stage now. Way to go, guys. Way to save it for the biggest game. I think they're going to run wild. And it will just have me drafting him again next year, only to have my heart broken once again. That's what's going to happen, Matt. Williams, he'll have like 150 yards. And I'll say, maybe I should keep him. Maybe I'll use my keeper on him. And then instantly regret it after the draft. That's my prediction. I think the passing game is going to open things up because normally in the Super Bowl, they're going to come out tight. I think that's why the 49ers will get an early lead just because they have more of a balanced attack. But once things settle in, I mean, look at how Shanahan, he was the coordinator for the Falcons. He couldn't figure it out last time.
About losing a Super Bowl.
Yeah, blowing a big lead. And then still having like no answers so that he just got up and left for San Francisco. And so now it's like, okay, build your team. I wonder if it's more of a flash in the pan. And like I speculated last week, do you think Andy Reid retires after this?
With a win, he might.
He might. Why not? I mean, the only thing that would say no, I don't know how old he is. I know he's been in the league forever. But if he had this little dynasty thing going, because I think the Chiefs are here to stay with Mahomes, I think they said they're not even going to pay him next year. They're just going to keep him on his current contract to try to keep the talented roster to make a back-to-back run scenario instead of and which is a great GM move. Why panic and overextend and extend early for no reason? Try to get back-to-back Super Bowls. I think it's a brilliant plan. And keep that core young. You have extra money to bring stuff in, and then pay Mahomes.
Unless he throws a temper tantrum and is like, "No, I'm not playing unless I get a new contract," and then they're out all that playing time.
No. If they wait and do it then, if they wait, they can sign the long-term deal when the season starts. You don't want to sign it now before the Super Bowl. He could choke. He could McNabb it. Number two, he could try to hold out and do stuff during the free agent period and the draft. Keep that salary low so you can make moves. Then talk to him in the summer when all that stuff's taken care of. If he wants to try to hold out in the summer, say like, look, we're going to backload your deal now. You can get like this much guaranteed, but we didn't want to take the cap hit because we want you to make a legit run at back-to-back. So I think it's smart on their point if they can have him do his negotiations, and if he wants to act upset, have him do it in the summer. And then you still have a chance to make a run at free agents and make some moves in the draft to help rebuild your team and see what your weaknesses are if you end up losing the Super Bowl.
Well, I'll throw another scenario out there. Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for Kansas City, is supposedly one of the bigger names that is out there for potential head coaching jobs. Maybe there's something internally within Kansas City that's saying there's a good chance that if Andy Reid wins, he gets out, and then they already have some kind of backdoor negotiation going on where if Reid goes, he gets the promotion to head coach. Because I was surprised that he wasn't lured away by some of the different openings that were out there earlier in the offseason.
Well, I think that makes a ton of sense. And like I said, it might not even happen this year. But if they were to win the Super Bowl, Andy Reid retires, why would you jump to another team when you have the potential right now to jump in when you know that Mahomes' contract's set up and everyone's contracts are set up to make another run next year? You could be a first-year head coach in the Super Bowl. Almost what happened with Green Bay. I mean, crazy, but it could happen. And so if you're in that position, why would you risk it? You have Mahomes. You know the Chiefs are going to end up signing him long-term. He's battled a little bit of injuries, but nothing really major. He's young. He's what, 24? I mean, he'd be the second youngest Super Bowl winner behind Ben Roethlisberger, who we all love. So, I mean, why not? They could build off that Steelers blueprint where you just cycle through. Have Ben take a couple wins, wins the Super Bowl. You're fighting, wins another one, fighting, gets back there again, and then you start to cycle through and do all your stuff. Like, you're set up for a good long run, and that's why I don't know if Andy Reid would leave, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was negotiations for that to take place and they just do a handoff. I don't know all the rules against it. I don't know about the interview rules and things like that, but I think that I'd say I feel confident that that's what's going to happen.
But with Bieniemy being African American, I think it would bypass a lot of those NFL rules because it would just be a minority coach being hired and they could just move forward. I mean, to me, it makes sense because he's already the offensive coordinator, so he's already has his hand in half of the workings of that team. That he just keeps that continuity going.
See, I didn't think it was just a minority thing. I thought there was a minimum of 5 candidates or something like that, but I could be 100% wrong. Especially if it's an internal hire. I don't know, because I thought maybe it's 3. Because wasn't the Cowboys 3 people that they interviewed, and one of them was Marvin Lewis, and then they asked him what he thought of the process, and he came out, and I thought, why would he feel any negative? Because if you just compared stats between him and McCarthy, it's a no-brainer to take McCarthy. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, you could honestly maybe just to have an internal, and then you only could have to interview one external candidate. I don't know what the rules are. Because it's kind of like a private company. They probably don't even have any rules like that.
Well, I want to say that they had. I thought because of the Rooney Rule that there had to be so many minority interviews.
See, that's where I'm probably getting confused with college, where I thought that they had to post it externally for a certain period of time or whatever, or maybe just at least talk to one other person just to check the box and say that you did it. I mean, no one's believing that that's honestly what happens. You know what I mean? If I saw Florida State posted theirs, I couldn't just apply and then be shocked that I didn't get an interview or at least a call back. Like, what? I saw it posted on your job board. I'm interested. I watch enough football. Any other keys to the game? I think mine's the running game and coaching, which I don't even know who to give the slight edge to. Andy Reid for experience. Both coaches choke in big games, so I mean that's a toss-up. You can go to quarterbacking. Both young quarterbacks. People were telling me Garoppolo's like 25-5 or something like that as a starting quarterback, whatever the actual number is. That doesn't mean anything to me. You're the backup for Tom Brady. Don't tell me that Garoppolo has 2 Super Bowl rings. Did he even play in those games? He didn't attempt any playoff passes until this year. So those rings don't. If the Patriots called me up and decided to give me a ring, I'd have as much right to talk about my Super Bowl performance as Jimmy G. He might have took a knee. I don't know. 2014 was his only other playoff appearance. He didn't have a stat, so he mostly just handed off or took a knee. Most likely. That could have been the Super Bowl game because they won that year. I don't know. I mean, I didn't get that opportunity, but I did watch the game, same as him on the sideline. I wasn't on the sideline, but I did watch it. So regular season doesn't mean anything. Ask Peyton Manning that.
Well, I think this might be the complete opposite of last year's Super Bowl, where a lot of people complained last year about it just being a defensive struggle. I don't think that this year is going to have that problem. I think both of them are really strong offensive-minded coaches that it's going to be a shoot-'em-out type game. So, I mean, I do think the advantage is going to be who's going to make the defensive changes to slow down the other person's offense. How do you steal a possession? And I know one of those things is going to be who is Richard Sherman going to end up being matched up with?
I don't know. Sherman, he talks a lot. Is he actually going to get it done? Seahawks let him walk for a reason.
Darrelle Revis was giving him a hard time, saying he's not that good of a corner because he plays his own scheme.
I mean, that's a good matchup to watch. We'll see what happens because If he gets burnt a couple times by Hill, that opens up the entire game. That's usually what happens. He gets behind someone at least once a game, multiple times most likely. So are they going to play a zone to prevent that? Or are they going to have some scheme to shadow him? I don't know. Because you can't let a busted play with him get behind you. Mahomes rolls out and throws deep. Because that's will shift everything. Because I know the defense will probably overreact. And then that opens up the running lanes. But it should be fun. I think you're right. I think the last time they played it was like 20-something to 30-something. I think the score will be similar. I don't think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it might start out slow just because you have a lot of inexperience on both teams, that the stage sometimes gets too big. But once things settle in, like after halftime, even a little bit before halftime, maybe the second quarter, I think at the end of the second quarter, you'll have a good feel of how the game's going to go. So, want to give your score prediction?
Oh, let's go with 35-25 Chefs.
Oh, that's a weird score. How are they going to get 25 points?
Don't ask. Just watch the game.
I think the Chiefs will win, and it will be like 35-31. I think they'll cover. I could go a little bit more, but I just think that the 49ers are going to get out to an early lead, and I just don't think they're going to be able to hold it. Giving false hope, almost the reverse of the Harbaugh Super Bowl where they ended up down, came back, and then Kaepernick just, for whatever reason, threw the ball away a couple times at the goal line. So that's what's going to happen. I think that's going to be a hell of a game. Did you watch any of the Pro Bowl?
I watched a very small portion of it.
I can't get into it, man.
I really can't either. It's just it's almost like the play it safe game, where they're just like, as long as nobody gets injured, we're good.
The thing that used to be for me is it used to be after the Super Bowl. Like you had the high of the I wouldn't even say it's the best game of the year, but like two highly matched teams in a high stress game. Normally, I know there's been some blowouts, but normally the blowouts haven't been that bad in the Super Bowl. So you go from watching that game to the next week. That's whenever you relax, watch the Pro Bowl for one more game as like a fun game before the offseason. The NFL putting it before the Super Bowl, it doesn't interest me at all. Like, why would I watch that silly goof-off game where the quarterback that just lost is going to be playing in that game? Like, you just lost for your team. Well, aren't you depressed? Like, what are you doing? That's how I view it. It's like, oh, look at all these buddies out here having a catch. Like, save that for after the game and let the Super Bowl teams participate. Let them be out there showing off their bling. Oh, but they probably changed it because, like, I don't even know what the reason was. Were they hurting people's feelings? I know a lot of people turned it down. Is that why they thought? I know they started to pay them to stop them from turning it down. But, I mean, if you have to pay players because they were turning it down, there's no point in watching.
Well, I mean, even with, I feel like there's still a decent amount of people that were turning it down, even with the extra financial incentives.
Because they know it was a joke. It wasn't a real game. They weren't allowed to hit. They had all other type of rules. And that's why it takes me out of the game. It's almost like watching a different sport. You're going to have all these wacky things go on. Why would I watch that before the Super Bowl? You put that on in the off season whenever people have nothing else to watch. I mean, everything else is going to be lead up to the Super Bowl. They're going to have this. They're going to have like all this promo stuff. People are going to be breaking down the game film of the 49ers and the Chiefs. Why would I take a break from that to watch a bunch of guys that weren't good enough to play in the Super Bowl? Because that's basically what it is.
Touche.
So, I mean, I hate whenever the NBA and the NHL do theirs in the middle of the season. It's almost like a little break. And I know that the NBA has been talking about maybe having a mini tournament. I would rather have that if they gave championship like credentials to it. Like the soccer league in Europe or whatever, and most of them, they have multiple championships throughout the year. And I think if they did a one-loss elimination tournament where you were crowned, like just name it something different. You have the NBA Finals and you have this, whatever you want to call it, tournament. Have it around Christmas, but actually give them championship rings and stuff like that and start to hang banners for it. Like it's like a secondary championship. So like teams that maybe don't have the highest budget, or maybe they have like, okay, you can get hot for a little bit. Your team might not have enough depth to win a 7-game series, but you can win that midseason tournament. And I wonder how many teams would win both.
Not
because
many.
because like you have to be hot and hit it. And how many teams sweep a 7-game series? Not many. A lot of them go 7 because it's back and forth between a lot of these playoff teams. So you might see teams that have never won a championship, maybe like Memphis the one year, get hot, make a run. And then if the league starts treating it like championships and where fans start talking trash on it, I think that's when the players will care. No one talks trash on the Pro Bowl. Like I would almost wish that they just did like a 7-on-7 tournament and had like an extra trophy after the Super Bowl and did that. Like do it like almost like they did the skills tournament. They used to do that. I think they still might. If they do, just because it's before the Super Bowl, no one cares about it. So you don't hear anything about it. NFL writers are not going to write about the Pro Bowl when they know the Super Bowl is going to have the most viewers. It's going to have all this other stuff. Everyone is writing about the Super Bowl, not the Pro Bowl. No one cares. And they did it to themselves. That's why, I mean, I would like to see little tournaments. I think even NHL, like if they could do a midseason tournament like that and hand out another cup, not like the Stanley Cup, or like a different type of trophy. Even if they did it, they changed it up and did like 3-on-3 or 4-on-4. I mean, I think that'd be awesome. Open the game up, have more scoring. You're still tied to your city, your team. I don't know if baseball could do something like that. Probably not. But like as a Pirates fan, we're going to talk about later in the show, there's nothing to cheer about. Nothing. Why even watch baseball? At least with basketball, most of the teams have nothing to watch, nothing to cheer about. You think Charlotte Hornets fans down here have any interest in watching the playoffs? Their team has never advanced to even the finals for the conference. I don't think so. So like if you're a Charlotte fan, why would you ever put any money into the NBA? You put this other tournament in place, maybe people start to watch. NFL, you have a chance. You're talking about all these concussion stuff. You want to see high scoring. You want people. I mean, do it as like a marketing thing. Don't make them wear their helmets. Do a 7-on-7 tournament after the league. You could even do it in the summer. Like summer camps come and you're doing tournaments and you just do like 2 or 3 weekends where it's like, okay, you're going to get matched up in a team from each division. So like, instead of having all the AFC East play together, you have one from the East, one from the North, one from the South, one from the West. They play in the first week. And then the next week, the winners advance. I mean, people talk about, well, Ben Roethlisberger's old. He's not going to be 100%. What if he came out and won the 7-on-7 tournament? I think that'd be funny. That'd be awesome. Get some of these other old guys. What about a guy like Joe Flacco? People say, oh, he's not a good quarterback. What if he was out there winning a 7-on-7 championship in the summer?
He's actually elite.
Yeah. The coach is out there. Might be another way to get players to make the roster, especially wide receivers and stuff, keep them in the game. So I'd rather watch that than the Pro Bowl. That's just me. You make it high stakes. Give fans something else to cheer about. I mean, college basketball kind of does it when they have those open invitational tournaments. Like Michigan won the Battle for Atlantis or whatever. They beat number 1 Gonzaga. That's Gonzaga's only loss right now. Michigan had a player get injured. Haven't been playing well. Did the tournament early in the season mean anything? Nope. Did it give fans hope for the coming seasons with new coach Juwan Howard? Yes, because they actually have a trophy to win that they won from something. A lot of teams, they don't have that. College is a little bit of a different beast because there's so many teams. But like in the pros, how many teams have never won anything? How many teams have never made the playoffs? Have never made the Super Bowl? I mean, it's not beyond belief. that fans, I don't know how fans cheer for some of these teams, but we'll get into that later in the show. Anything else you have with the NFL, Matt?
Nope, not off the top of my head.
All right, getting into our next big thing. Football's not going away. So if you listen to the show, the XFL, we're going to be hitting on it. So if you're looking for an XFL podcast, you've come to the right place. Because after this, Super Bowl's going. We're probably going to be one of the only XFL podcasts out there, Matt. And I hope that brings in some new listeners and they stay for the other football seasons, college football, NFL, summer NFL drafts coming up after the XFL season. But rosters are set. I'm sorry, Pitt fans. I do not have the numbers for Pitt players in the XFL, but Penn State had 3 players make the roster. 2 wide receivers and Matt McGloin. Going to be the quarterback for New York Dragons, I think. So there are going to be some familiar faces. Probably not as many as you would have hoped, because a lot of people are probably thinking, who the hell's Matt McGloin? Like, you have to be kind of a diehard Penn State fan to remember quarterbacks that are in this league. Or, I mean, diehard, whatever, football fans to even remember some of these guys. They didn't draw in any big names. Like I had said, I wish they would have went after former Heisman Trophy winners. A lot of them end up in, the CFL, Johnny Manziel.
Yep.
I mean, he ended up, in the AAF last year. He didn't end up playing. And they tried to make it on him. Like, to me, you need to find a mix between coaching and trying to win the games. I understand that. But at some point, you need to market your team as well. Or, like the AAF, they didn't take advantage of Manziel. They didn't take advantage of anything, and they folded. And that's what annoyed me last year with all these media types and everyone. They were loving the AAF, and now they're all laughing, hoping the XFL fails. It's like, you didn't like the XFL, but why were you cheering for the AAF then? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You either want extra football or you don't. Because the leagues are almost the exact same. It's almost like they hate Vince McMahon and WWE or whatever they're called now. So, I mean, that's what I just don't understand it. He's doing things trying to advance the sport. They're going to be trying some new innovative things that the NFL is going to take the data from and apply to their own sport. Kickoffs, things like that. They're going to steal it. They stole it the last time. Camera angles and everything. I was happy, Matt. I looked at the TV guide. They have major networks for at least one of the games every week. I hate how they split it up, if I'm being honest. So the schedule is going to be 2 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday. I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to go for the rest of the year. I understand that that's how they could make the television partners happy. But for example, most Saturday games looks like are going to be on ABC and Fox. Very similar to college football, and I love the setup. Because it's Saturday, it's the winter, not a lot of stuff. You wake up, it's snowing, it's raining, it's cold. You're like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to put the game on. I think it's a great opportunity for them, and I'm glad it's on the regular network. The Sunday games, I was a little disappointed in because a lot of them are on cable. It's like FS1 and then ESPN or some variation like that. A couple of them do make it to ABC or Fox, but I would have rather had all of the games on one day, I think, and tried to make it more of like a college football day. But hey, it might work doing both days. I mean, even the NFL, they have all of their games on one day because if there's a blowout, you can switch to the other game. And I mean, I honestly think that they could have taken advantage of that and talked ESPN and ABC and Fox into it by saying, like, look, your main network gets one, the cable gets the other one. So, like, ABC gets their game at maybe 2 p.m., then Fox Sports 1 gets theirs at 2:30. So they're practically in the same time slot, but people can switch to view the endings of both. And then I think that they would have flipped it and had ESPN up against the Fox game or whatever. And I'm pretty sure ESPN and ABC would have been the ones to push back on that. They wouldn't want people to leave ESPN to go watch on Fox. Probably why they ended up with 2 days. But I think as a fan, I would have liked that better. It's hard to invest 2 days of your weekend into sitting around watching a ton of games. Because that equals out to, 3 hours a game, Matt? That's 12 hours of football?
Well, I thought they're trying to shave it down.
Well, I think they're still going to try to get under 3. you're going to have to invest at least 3 hours of your day if you wanted to watch all 4 XFL games every weekend. Put them at night. I think the time slots were like 2 and 5. Put them at night. Maybe they didn't want to watch that. I don't understand why ESPN wouldn't want the 8 p.m. time slot. It works for college football. I guess that's on ABC, though. And maybe the times have changed because the only graphic I could find was from December. So you know how TV changes things around. So maybe that's changed. I don't know. But that's the big news. The other thing that annoyed me, and I know people are probably going to jump on me, but hear me out. The XFL announced that they're going to have at least one woman on every referee crew for all their games. And to me, what they just said was they're not picking the crew based on merit. If you have the best crew out there, because that's my number one beef across all sports, is how bad the refereeing is, put the best team together. I don't care if the entire crew is women. If they're not out there making mistakes, because, I mean, a lot of the NFL crews are all men, they make tons of mistakes. So it's not a man versus woman thing. I want to see the best refs. Don't just check the box and say, oh, putting a woman out there. Like, to me, that gives me zero confidence in their crews right off the bat because they're not looking for the best person. Because now, you know what's going to happen, Matt? Every crew's only going to have one woman. I would be shocked if they had a 3-woman crew. And the women might be the best for the job. But just because they came out and said that they're going to have one on each crew, that pretty much just makes them check that box, and they're just going to pick one every time. So I hate it. I don't even know if you want to comment on that because that could be divisive. But
well, I know a lot of crews, what they end up doing is they have a group of people that they work together. They get to a better understanding with it. So if they're saying they're starting the crews with this, it's not like they get pulled out of a hat and they're saying, well, we're going to have this group here. It's the same ones that stay together so that they get a feel for where each other, like how they call a game, and that the flow within the game can be affected by how people decide to call penalties.
It sounds like you're giving them a lot of credit before we've even seen them on the field.
Well, no, but what I'm saying is I see it with the officiating crews that I have. There's comfort levels between crews that they have the same people that working together. They tend to let more penalties go. There are a couple games that we had where there was like a different person on the crew that when you'd ask about penalties, they go, I have no idea where this guy came from. Like, he's not normally on our crew.
Oh, I understand exactly what you're saying. I just don't know if they're going to actually have made their decision based on that. I'm thinking for the worst. I've never seen things like this come out and roll out smoothly. You're like, oh, here's our crew. Might have worked. I mean, look at the Major League Baseball stuff. Oh, yeah, we knew they were cheating back in 2017, but we had to get the data together. We had to wait for them to win 2 World Series, 2 cheating teams, before we could come out with it. And then we almost didn't even come out with it. Like, people had to put it together based on Twitter videos. Like, come on. That's the same thing to me. That's what professional sports leagues are doing. That's how slow they are. So, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'll be glad that I'm wrong. If they roll out and have, like, the best crew together, I don't care who it is. Just put the best out there.
Well, I think you're going to recognize a lot of people because I did see some of the names that were released. There's a lot of former Pittsburgh Steelers that are going to be out there in this league. But what I think a big point to keep in the back of your mind as the XFL kicks off is it's the XFL. It's not the NFL. So don't think that you're going to get a similar type product because you're not. And I think you're going to see kind of the way the AAF was where people had complaints about it being sloppy in the early part. I think with it being a new league and adjusting to the players getting into the same system, it's not like the NFL where you're having a lot of guys that have played multiple seasons together. I think you're going to see some of that work itself out the first couple weeks of the XFL.
Well, I think that's the one thing that I'm going to look for because the AAF, when they came out, they were practically trying to mimic the NFL. And I think that's what really stood out as why it was so poor. people were like, we just watched the Super Bowl. Teams were running the same exact stuff, but they looked 100 times better at it. They looked much faster. They didn't have as many dropped punts and things like that. The XFL has some actual rule changes that I'm hoping that shift the game enough to where if they make mistakes, you realize that, oh, this offense looks totally different. It's a little bit more innovative compared to what the NFL does, where it's like the tried and true. We talk about how slow it takes for them to even incorporate some of the plays that have been in the college game for a decade. So I'm hoping, based on the crews they put together, I'm not very optimistic. Maybe Bob Stoops. I mean, he's a big name. He hasn't been known for innovative offenses. Oklahoma, they've been figured out for how many years now?
But he has the godfather of the air raid as his OC, so he has Hal Mummy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We'll see what happens. I mean, look at Pep Hamilton from Michigan. Was he a standout offensive coordinator? Most people hated Michigan's offense.
That's okay. He'll get in that 2 tight end set, run dives and powers.
Yeah, we'll see. Is that what he's going to roll out?
Is it 1st and 5? Is it 1st and 1?
You can know the first down play is a run, Matt. So, I mean, that's what we're going to look at. See what the coaches are. I'm surprised they didn't make a run after Steve Spurrier just because of how he was successful in the AAF. I think that would have been a good fit. But, hey, my man can't have championships in every single league. Any other things you have for football, Matt?
No.
I'm trying to think. I thought I had one more, but we'll have to save it for next week. We'll get into Super Bowl, obviously. We have that coming down. Oh, no, that was the last thing. Just a reminder out there for all you Steelers fans, no matter who wins the Super Bowl, Steelers will still have the most Super Bowls of all time at 6. So you don't have to worry. Just sit back and relax. Let's get into high tempo. I had mine first because it was from last week. So while we were doing the show, I had it was too late to talk about it, but Kansas and Kansas State basketball teams got into a fight. After the game, there was like some pushing and shoving. One player picked up a chair and like almost attempted to hit a guy, but he threw it down. But I think they still suspended him because they were like, yo, bro, you're on camera picking up a chair. And it was almost like, what are they doing? Where are the coaches? Like, how are the players able to get out of control like this at the end of a game? So I just wanted to mention that for the high tempo, that I saw the fight. People were comparing it to the NBA, Malice in the Palace. Isn't that where they went into the stands and were like fighting fans? Like that's totally different. Why are you trying to bring that in? Media. It's almost like these media guys don't even remember or like believe what they say, and they're just like, you know what? Hey, I remember people talking about this. I'm going to write about it, or I'm going to say that that's a good comparison. Like totally different. Fighting fans and fighting each other. I like if the fans, I mean, if the refs are going to let the players fight, I don't think players should really be suspended. If anything, it was more like the Steelers Browns fight this year. Yeah, they suspended some guys. What did that really accomplish? Nothing. It was the end of the game. That scenario is very similar. Myles Garrett hit the head of Mason Rudolph. I still think it's a lot on Rudolph. He went after him. I still don't understand why Garrett was suspended for the entire season. I'll probably get hated on by Steelers fans, but that's my belief. You let him out there if the refs aren't going to break it up. Who's breaking it up? So, any thoughts on that, Coach?
It was one of those things that I feel like when you as an outsider, you look at it and you go, well, how can you let that happen? But when emotions run hot like that, and then you get multiple players from both sides engaged, it doesn't matter. You're not going to reel that back in. So I think, especially when you look at the size of some of those players, most of the coaches or officials, for that matter, aren't going to do anything except get themselves hurt in the process. So it's almost better that if you're not going to be able to stop it, to at least just be in a spot to take good notes and be able to document what happened.
Matt, have you ever learned from Bobby Knight? Don't you know that your players are supposed to be scared of you? So that if you look at them or you yell at them, you don't have to fight them. they're just already afraid of you that they just quiver. They cower in fear. So then it never happens.
Yeah, and if you do anything remotely close to that now, do you know how long you'll last in the coaching profession? Not long.
Hey, Mike Leach is still going. They accused him of that, remember? At Texas Tech. Look how shit Texas Tech's program turned out.
Yeah, look how long he lasted there.
He's at Mississippi State now. He's moving on up.
Do you really consider that moving up?
That's a better program than Texas Tech.
Now?
Well, yeah, because he's there. Texas Tech is garbage, Matt. Texas Tech was bad before Leach got there. Now they're bad again. If you look in their history, it's not like, have they ever won anything? They're like the Virginia Tech of the Big 12. People assume they're good because of the hype and like the Crabtree years, like back in the day because they had Mike Leach. People assume Virginia Tech's supposed to be good, but if you look at their history books, what are they pointing at? One failed national championship with Mike Vick? That's a shot at Virginia Tech too, so I'm coming at you guys. I don't care. We had that guy, remember? We had a Virginia Tech fan that was harassing us because
right.
Pitt beat them that one time or whatever. I can't even remember what it was for. It's like, why? Virginia Tech has never won anything. I don't even know if they have any other sports. Like, at least in the ACC, like NC State has 2 national championships in basketball. People always make jokes about them. Has Virginia Tech ever won anything in any sport? That's pure little brother right there, Matt.
I bet they'd win a Pinewood Derby contest.
Hey, maybe. I mean, you got to make up sports. Isn't that like an Ohio State thing?
They'd probably lose to Georgia Tech, though.
You have like a trampoline team or whatever. You just find out what NCAA teams or sports only have like 3 teams, and you put a sport together, try to win it, and claim a national championship.
Put in your fundraising.
You have anything for high tempo?
Actually, this weekend I had a really great opportunity to go out to Pittsburgh for the National Wing T Clinic. My old boss was one of the first night presenters, so it was nice to get to hang out with some of my old coaches. And the thing that I really like with that conference and just some of these coaching clinics in general is that to get yourself out there and just talk with coaches like from other states and stuff to see what are they doing, what kind of stuff, like issues do they have within their programs, and it just kind of makes your situation feel a lot better and to give yourself some new ideas for the upcoming season.
And if you're curious on what that clinic would be like, just go to Canton. They have a history of football there where they have like the old extinct offenses, right, Matt? So it's almost like a museum.
Man, you got me there. I'm triggered. Season. Oh, you idiot.
Just go to a museum. Like they have the dinosaur bones. They have the wing T playbook. They put it right there.
I will say this though, it is interesting to see because within the wing T, there's two different factions. There's half of it that runs more of the traditional formations and sets, and they kind of follow to the T the original book written by Tubby Raymond. But there's also a newer group that they incorporate more. You'll hear the NFL call like the pin and pull scheme, which is for wing T people, their buck sweep play. They run a lot of the RPOs, and you'll see teams that kind of incorporate some of those spread looks into it. So you get a feel for both sides of that coin. That if there's teams that they push more spread up tempo, jet and rocket type offense, and there's people that they go traditional 100-900 and are successful with that too. But the thing that's always difficult is that as you're watching some of these cut-ups from these teams, you'll have people that have been in state championship games, and you kind of it makes you remember it's the players, not the plays, because when you have really good athletes, it can make you look like a really good coach too. You just give the ball to your fastest kid, he just outruns everyone down the sideline. It's kind of easy to be a pretty good coach at that point.
That's called the old Gene Chizik.
Absolutely, just recruit. When in doubt, just recruit some athletes, then you'll win.
Just keep your eye on the crime blotter. So when the Florida quarterback steals a laptop, you just claim them right out of the JUCO circuit. Then whenever you win the national championship, they fire you anyway.
They'll give you credit.
Basically what happens. He still has his Chiswick coins at Iowa State, though. The commemorative Chiswick coin. Let's get into some baseball, though. Pirates. I mentioned it earlier in the show. They trade Marte. We knew they were going to start to trade people because Bob Nutting made some stupid announcement like 2 weeks ago about how he was invested in the team and how they were putting together a budget for the future. So I knew something dumb like this was going to happen. The payroll drops to like $48 million. I put on here payroll drops to 50 because I saw some conflicting numbers, but that's the safe side. That's the conservative side. They're going to be one of the bottom three in the leagues, if not the bottom. We don't know. They don't have a problem with attendance. There's zero reason they should be bottom third in the league. We talked about it before. The TV numbers were great. The Pirates are in the top, not even the top half. They're like in the top 10 in TV viewership. If they had negotiated a better TV deal, or if they take advantage of some of the attendance revenue, they could pay for anyone they want. There is zero reason to trade Marte. Sure, he got busted for roids. Everyone's on performance-enhancing stuff in baseball. They're all cheating. Who cares? Let them all cheat. That's what I said last week. I'm sticking with that statement. Let them all go and keep them. Pay for them. Matt, name a Pirate that you would pay to go see next year.
I don't even know who's on the team anymore.
They traded him for 2 prospects, Matt. How many prospects do you need? At what point do people just quit going to Pittsburgh and drive to Altoona?
Quit look on keep your eyes on your own paper. I've been saying that for years. But you're absolutely right. Actually, one of the things that I was thinking about, Marte is 31. Not ridiculously old in Tom Brady years, but still hitting towards the tail end of, had there have been other players, I don't know that I would be as hard on this trade as what I am. But it's like when you have nothing else, when you literally have nothing else in your roster, it's like just giving that last can of soup away. Does it really matter at that point? When you've given everything else away in the cupboard, it doesn't matter. So I have a hard time like really being negative on this trade because it could end up being something good. Why? I think they could have, maybe the plan at this point is with that extra money that they saved, maybe they'll go out and they'll sign some wiry veterans for a 1-year contract. Maybe hawk them for some of Allen Iverson's necklaces at the trade deadline.
It's almost, it's baffling to me because I was looking to see when did it happen. But like the Pirates, they always make like the dumbest trades. And like you said, it reminds me, I think it was Jose Mesa. I'm trying to look at his thing. He came into the league in 1981. The Pirates acquired him in 2004, and that was like their big signee. Like 50-year-old Jose Mesa, and they were like, oh yeah, look what we got. We got veteran leadership now. Hey, jackasses, if you don't cut your entire team and trade them all for picks, you'll have some veteran leadership. Like, what's the problem with keeping Marte around for some veteran leadership in the locker room? You have like none.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have minded keeping him, but I understand where they were coming from. I think every year I feel like they've traded someone for good value picks, prospects, but then somehow they end up with no prospects because they gave, what'd they do, give 2 of their prospects to the Rays?
Was it them or the Diamondbacks? I don't even remember. But I think you're right. Whenever they were doing that, was the Archer deal?
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make any sense to me. It is like, why are you doing this? Number one. And then why are you trying to talk about like the things that don't work for you? Like, how many rebuilds are you going to go through? Are you going to sign any of these big guys? Are you going to make the trade? They would never make the Verlander trade that the Astros did. They just wouldn't.
Yeah.
I have zero confidence in them to do anything for baseball. I went to a game last year. I wonder how many fans actually went to a game. And it was like, okay, outrageous food prices. I expected it. I expected to spend like $20 at least on beer because it's only 2 beers. So, like, what do you expect? You go and you get one of your sandwiches, then you're down like 30 or 40 bucks, and that's one person. If I would have took my family there, Matt, that's over $100 to go watch them play. Who am I paying to go do that? $100, I can go out to Bojangles 4 times. Like, I can get much better bang for my buck. I can watch whatever I want. I could bring a tablet and just sit and watch a movie or something at Bojangles if I wanted to. Why would I go to the Pirates game to watch that? At this point, they're a minor league club with major league prices.
I'd rather go to the Curve where you can see them coming up.
Anyone, any minor league team. And if you're a Pirates fan, I think that's what you should do. Boycott the Pirates, drive to one of their minor league teams. If you're that big of a fan, that's what you need to start doing. Hitting them in the wallet or whatever people say. Go ahead, pay money, but only pay to the minor league teams. And if they ask why, like, why did you cancel your Pirate season tickets and buy, I don't even know if they have a team closer than Altoona. Like, why are you paying for tickets there? Oh, you know why? Because it was cheaper and you seem to trade away all your best guys for prospects. So my best chance at seeing some good athletes is in the minors anyway. Like, the best talent is going to be playing in Altoona or for the AAA team. I can't remember where they even are. So drives me nuts, man. There's zero reason to watch them. I just saw 2 people with Pirate hats on this week. And I just thought, like, you're down here in the South wearing a Pirates hat. I hope you're not a fan. I hope you're just wearing it because you think it looks cool or you're from Pittsburgh. That's my final thoughts on it. You have anything else on baseball?
No, I saw that with the trade, and for once, I know we are really hard on the Pirates, but I do think that at some point it has to improve. At some point, I think you have to just either Major League Baseball has to set a minimum for what they want or what they expect people to spend on, because if you're getting the TV money and you're getting the ballpark money, don't tell me that that's all the more that you can spend on prospects. Like, you have to try to do something to prove that you're making a competitive move to be in the league, or sell the team to someone who will. Make it interesting.
And I used to hate teams moving, but at this point, like, if Major League Baseball, I don't understand what their point is of having a team in Pittsburgh. Just get rid of them. Get rid of them, people. I know they have an awesome ballpark. Just rent it out and do let the Pitt Panthers play there or something. Try to build something that people want to come see. Because I think it's dying. It's to the point where, like, I look at the Rays and I look at they have a proposal down here in Raleigh to get Major League Baseball. I think we've talked about it before. After David Tepper went out and bought a Major League Soccer team, it's almost like, okay, you could just buy that same team. If he wants them in Charlotte, or if they really want to go to Raleigh, Major League Baseball can easily move the Rays. They're not getting any tickets, anything. Just make them the Raleigh Rays. See what happens. It can't be any worse. You have a ton of people here that came from the north. Put them there. There is 0 point to keeping them in Tampa Bay. People go to Florida because they want to go to the beach or do other stuff, not because they want to go watch poor baseball. Put them in a city where nothing else is going on. There's really no other professional sports in Raleigh. At least you have the Hurricanes. People go to see them. They seem to have pretty good corporate support, which keeps them here. And baseball could be the same. And I'm not even saying that for selfish reasons to get a major league team here. Put them in any other city. Because, like, why? Why keep them in Pittsburgh? You complain about everything. Oh, you're not getting enough people to the games. Oh, people are still coming to the games. Oh, well, we're not getting enough from TVs because we're a small market. Like, just keep giving more and more excuses. It's like, I don't even care. Why would I tune in? Just get it done. That's all I have to say. Speaking of getting it done, our last topic, UCLA Athletics has posted an $18.9 million deficit, Matt. And I know I sent you this earlier in the week because it came out like a week ago, I believe. But it just came out that they're taking a loan from the actual university with interest to pay this off. And it just came out yesterday or today from was it Mercury News? I want to give them a shout out. It's like one of the local papers over there. They discovered that they're already on track to lose $17 million more this year. So they're already in discussions if they can get another loan from the university. The craziest thing is, Matt, they have the richest apparel deal in college athletics with that outrageous Under Armour deal that I have no idea why Under Armour signed them, because you used to have the apparel deals come out and it was always either Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, or Texas. And they just kind of like jumped back and forth depending on whose was up. Like Adidas signed Michigan, they had the number one deal for a while. Then Nike signed Texas to a bigger deal. Then Ohio State jumped them. And then all out of nowhere, Under Armour just signs UCLA. They had already poached Notre Dame. They didn't give Notre Dame the top deal, which I was surprised at because they're like one of the biggest names like the other schools I mentioned. UCLA, no one considers them a top sports school. It's not the 1960s basketball realm anymore. So they give this deal. They still can't make the budget, Matt. What's going to happen whenever UCLA negotiates with them next time? Guess what? They're not getting that deal. Like they already made that mistake the first time. So now they see this, that they're posting a deficit, and a lot of people are blaming it on Chip Kelly. I don't think it's Chip Kelly's fault.
It's Chip Kelly's fault. Blame Chip Kelly.
Well, they fired Jim Mora. Then they hired Chip Kelly. He had a rough first year because he was going to have a transition. You even talked about he built the 49ers team. Everywhere he goes, they win after. Like it takes some time. He built Oregon. They won up until and then after, and now they've fallen off. You look at Philadelphia. As soon as he's gone, they win the Super Bowl. Now they've fallen off. 49ers, get rid of them. They're going to be in the Super Bowl this year. Are they going to fall off? We'll see. UCLA, they seem to be building big. Now let's see if the money follows. The other big one was they fired Steve Alford for no reason. Their basketball coach, they had extended him. They had all that other stuff going on. And when they hired him, I thought it was a bad move because following Big Ten basketball, I watched him at Iowa. His team was getting upset in the tournament by 14 seeds and all kind of other stuff. He always had a highly hyped team that never lived up to expectations. That's why he ended up at New Mexico or wherever after Iowa. I don't know if he was kind of pushed out of town or what happened, but UCLA hires him from there. And it's like, what do you expect to happen? Like he underachieves no matter where he's at. Did you expect him to make a Final Four? Like there are other coaches out there. Like I could see Texas made the mistake with Shaka Smart where they jumped at him because he was the hot commodity coming out of VCU and things haven't panned out. Like they hired old Steve Alford that hadn't been relative since like 2002 Iowa. And I don't even know if that year's accurate. But one of the early years, like when they were the 3 seed. And they end up losing in the first round anyway. So they deserve that deficit. I don't know how they're going to come back because we talked about it just last week, how the Pac-12 is starting to just put their sports on some other random network because no one's paying for the network. So it's losing money.
Well, unless they're banking on their gymnastics program and women's softball.
That doesn't pay the bills, Matt.
Doesn't pay the bills.
I mean, I could be honest about it. I could try to lie and say, like, yeah, people care. I mean, they care. Doesn't pay the bills. One season of football would pay for all of those other sports combined, and at most schools it does. Even basketball doesn't really pay the bills.
Nope.
Look at schools that are really good at basketball, like Gonzaga and them. They don't even have a football team. They don't have a lot of other sports either because they know that the basketball team won't support 30 other sports.
Well, and with basketball, it's so quick to be one and done that it's tough to build that continuity. Well, that you have to constantly have the structure to pull the recruits in.
Well, that's why I just saw an article on, was it from Sports Illustrated? I can't even remember now, where they were talking about how parity in college football, how bad it's been since like going back like 30 or 40 years, you had like 20 something teams win the national championship with most of them either playing for it or being in the discussion multiple times, and that's it. And then like each iteration, it gets less and less. Like then they had the BCS and it went down to like 17 teams because you weren't randomly getting years from teams like Colorado and Georgia Tech and Georgia. And then you have the college playoffs where it's even lesser amount of teams and they have 4 slots because you're having Clemson make it every year from the ACC. I guess Florida State made it once, but still my point. Then Alabama making it almost every year. And at that point, until they expand it, it's never going to change. The best thing that happened to college basketball, I think, was the one and dones. Because now you're seeing teams like Butler, they're able to make the national championship game in back-to-back years because they had a team built with upperclassmen that the other big team, the Blue Bloods, they can't match. Because a lot of their big-name stars, they're not sticking around to develop. They're jumping right to the NBA after 1 year, and that's it. And I think that's what really hurts when you have coaches like Shaka Smart go to Texas, where at VCU, he built a team based on senior leadership. Texas, he has people jump into the league. He can't build his program. And so, like, you have to either be all in. I mean, Coach K made that switch. He's been all in. Has he been as successful as he used to be? No. Nowhere close. But you have to kind of look at the trade-offs and all this other stuff. Is it worth getting a Zion that everyone talks about only to know that you're gonna choke in the play or in the tournament? I don't know. That's what you have to look at. Like for UCLA, what do you want your end goal to be? Do you want Chip Kelly to build a program, or do you want to cut him and try to hire a cheaper coach? I mean, I'm sure the buyout's outrageous. So, like, what do you want your program to be?
Here to you win a championship, which is the blueprint.
Yeah, but you got to actually be on the upswing.
No, because he wasn't. It's not like he's getting fired for doing a good job.
Yeah, but I think he's more of like, I guess you're right. I don't know. I'd have to look more into his records. That's all I have, though. You got anything else? Call it Sports Wide or whatever.
For supporting the show, following, liking, continuing to give us the support so we can keep doing this. So the more you support, the more we can do for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we're probably going to be one of the only XFL projects around that talks other sports as well. So you're not going to just get a random, am I going to listen to this XFL stuff? Like, you're still going to get the general football talk. And, I mean, Matt's a coach, so you're going to get insight that you're probably not going to get from just listening to media guys. So, thanks for your support. Like Matt said, make sure you watch the show. Tell your friends. Download the show. Leave us a review on iTunes. I know that helps. I think we have a 5-star rating right now. So that's big. And anything else you can do to support us, I appreciate. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.